All right, good morning. Saturday, October the 19th. There are 17 days remaining in this year's extremely close and important presidential race, a contest that will ultimately be decided by the results of the election in 7 swing states. I'm in one of those critical swing states this weekend, Arizona, where Joe Biden won the race over Donald Trump by fewer than 11,000 votes in 2020. It was Biden's narrowest margin of victory that year in terms of total numbers of votes. It was also the closest presidential race in Arizona history, Arizona being a state that has largely been a Republican stronghold for the past 70 years. And now, with Election Day fast approaching, both campaigns and their surrogates have been focusing their efforts on winning in the swing states. Thousands of people showed up for an event here in Arizona last night featuring Barack Obama, who remains one of the most popular Democrats in the country. Today, Obama's going to appear at another event in Las Vegas to help get out the vote. In many ways, Arizona is a microcosm of this country as a whole in this moment in time. Like elsewhere in America, residents have been concerned about inflation and where the economy is headed. Arizona is an actual border state, so the country's immigration issue is something that affects people and their everyday lives here. At the moment, a 15-week abortion ban is in effect in Arizona, but a proposal is on the ballot this year that will give voters a chance to restore reproductive rights in this state. It's also an area where Trumpism has taken hold and presented threats to the democratic process. So Arizona will be crucial on Election Day. But let's get one thing out of the way quickly. Probably won't be Election Day. It'll be Election Week, at least. Where we are, Maricopa County is one of the largest counties in America, and it tabulated more than 2 million votes in the last presidential election, but it took some time. Based on prior elections, we can estimate that between 70 and 80% of votes will be counted on election night, which is probably not enough in a tight race like this to know who won the state by Tuesday night, November 5th. This is normal. But in 2020, to Trump and his political party, this long process was evidence of election fraud. Pro-Trump protesters, some armed, gathered outside Maricopa County's elections departments in the days after the election, demanding a faster vote, while Trump supporters in other states asked to stop the count. They alleged in Arizona that scores of their ballots had not been counted. Those ballots were, in fact, counted, but the protest didn't stop. Alex Jones showed up. Election workers had to be escorted to their cars by police. What was unprecedented at the time settled into being the new normal. In 2022, a federal judge had to order members of the group called Clean Elections USA to stay at least 250 feet away from ballot drop boxes in Arizona after reports that some, quote, observers were masked and armed, taking photos and videos of people dropping off their ballots. And in 2024, conservative groups have told Arizona officials they'll be monitoring those drop boxes again. Threats and abuse against election workers are increasing nationwide, according to a survey by the Brennan Center. 38% of local election officials have experienced threats, harassment, or abuse for doing their jobs. 38%. Remember, this is a country in which elections are run by civilians. We need these people to keep our elections efficient and safe. Here in Maricopa County, the county recorder, Stephen Richer, a Republican who has stood up to the election lies swirling around Arizona, told NPR this week that people bang on his windshield. They stop and they jostle with him on the street. They leave voicemails laced with death threats. Earlier this year, the vice chair of the Maricopa Republican Party said she would, quote, lynch Richer. Lynch. All of this has necessitated increased security. The same Maricopa County tabulation center upon which Trump supporters descended 4 years ago will be fortified with 3 layers of fencing, with bulletproof glass, FBI agents on the ground, and snipers on adjacent roofs. A place to count votes in America. But something that bulletproof glass and sheriffs on horseback can't do anything about is the subversion of elections by suppressing votes through the filing of frivolous lawsuits and stalling tactics to not only slow down the certification, but to sow doubt about the process in the minds of American voters. Republicans in Arizona have launched several lawsuits to purge voters from the rolls or to require strict proof of citizenship at polling locations. One open Arizona lawsuit filed by the Arizona GOP chairwoman demands that the state purge at least 500,000 voters from its rolls, claiming they've either died or moved from the state. The Arizona Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, says the complaint is full of faulty data and has moved to dismiss it, but it won't be the last challenge to Arizona voters. In 2022, Trump allies and the Arizona Republican Party attempted to steal Arizona's electoral votes by certifying a false slate of electors. 18 co-conspirators were indicted by a grand jury for the scheme. Their trial is set to begin in January. Here with me now in Phoenix is Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, who's also an executive board member of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. He previously and importantly served as the county recorder for Maricopa County. Good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Good to have you back. It's a regular thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love that you come out and we have these conversations because, to me, you're the opposite of everything I just said, right? There are people who are sowing doubts in the political and the democratic process in this country. We don't really have a problem in the voting process in this country, nor do you have a problem in this state or Michigan or Pennsylvania or Georgia, anywhere else. People like you who administer elections in this state, it works well.
It works well, and it's a bipartisan system run, as you indicated in the opener, by regular folks like you and me. We've got almost 10,000 jurisdictions in the United States of America. Maricopa County is the second largest, but we do it in so many different ways. Local laws, statutes, local kind of the way the government is set up, and it's really, really robust. And we've actually never been more secure, more accountable, more transparent than we are now because of the way we've had to combat the misdis and malinformation that have been flooding the zone and really causing a lot of the problems that you've been talking about.
What are the bigger problems? The logistics and the particular problems that stand in the way of people voting, or the mis and dis and malinformation that causes people to think there's something wrong with the system? I can't tell. Which is the bigger problem?
The biggest problem is elected officials and candidates who are still lying about elections. They are lying to their fellow citizens, and they're lying in a way that helps to erode the civic faith that we have in one another as Americans. That's the biggest problem. Everything else stems from that. And leadership matters in the United States of America. This is not a game. And, you know, folks who are trying to be responsible, like Mayor Giles, who you had on earlier, and the congressman, like myself, like others, we just want folks to be able to vote.
Right.
We just want to do our jobs. It's the liars, those folks who are grifting. We've got candidates right now who have their own 501c3s that are promoting this lie, paying themselves by gathering up money from around, you know, and it's the folks that are being cheated. That's the problem.
You were the person who administered the votes in Maricopa County before you became the Secretary of State.
In 2020.
That's right. And so you know how it worked. It's wild to me that we are talking about. I actually asked my staff to check this fact about the fact that they're going to have snipers and 3 layers of fencing and FBI agents, because it's incredible to me that we're saying that these words are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. We've taken a lot of precautions ourselves. And look, since I took office as secretary in January of 23, we have worked directly with state, federal, and local law enforcement agents. And we've had even folks from the Counterterrorism Information Center here in Arizona and CISA out inspecting our places where we do this work across this state, getting our cybersecurity, physical security agents out there from CISA to give us information, and then going out with Tiger teams to help put in the bulletproof glass, do the ramps, do the firewalls in their electronic information technology systems. We've had to really secure things. Again, we've never been more secure than we are now, but unfortunately, we've kind of got to secure ourselves against ourselves.
Yeah,
and that's terrible.
Let's talk a little about these fears that people are talking about with non-citizens voting. You and every Secretary of State think about these things. You know how to take precautions. There are some jurisdictions in the country where non-citizens are allowed to vote in certain local jurisdictions, but they're not permitted to vote in federal elections, and it's not really a thing. Donald Trump is making it seem like he said people don't speak the language, they don't even know what country they're in, but somehow they're going to mobilize to vote en masse. It's not really a thing.
No, it's not really a thing. Interestingly, if you look at the history of it, alien suffrage was always a thing until 1926. The last state to remove non-citizens from voting was Arkansas in the Deep South. But citizenship is a requirement now, and in every state in the union, everyone does the same thing except Arizona. We've got a higher standard. Everybody else in the country signs an affidavit under penalty of perjury that they are a citizen. That's it. You do it if you're a citizen, everybody else does it. But in Arizona, you've got to additionally provide documented proof of citizenship to vote in all of our state systems. So when people are saying, oh, well, we've got these folks without documents, they're automatically illegal. No. They've met the standard that every other American has met. They just haven't met that higher standard that we can verify at this point. So would they still be eligible to vote in federal elections? Yes, for president, for Senate, for Congress. We are right now in the process of working out some of these issues, but it is vanishingly rare that a non-citizen registers, and even more rare that they'll cast a ballot. They're risking a lot.
Well, I was going to say, the penalty upon penalty of perjury is a real thing. In other words, what is it you want to do as a non-citizen to risk the fact that someone determines that you voted as a non-citizen and then prosecute
Right.
you.
Well, think about this. If you're not here legally, are you going to give the government your name, your date of birth, your address, and then have them have that verifiable information? And if they find out you've done it, you will never become a citizen ever again, which is what most people want. It doesn't make sense on its face. But again, the liars, the grifters, the folks that want us divided one from another, they're going to capitalize on this same lie that they've been using year in and year out. It's like bamboo ballots all over again, right? This is just the problem that we have, and unfortunately, people are buying it.
What's your sense of how it's going to go after election night in terms of we're just going to have to get used to the fact that we may not all get results on election night?
Well, we're not going to have official results on election night. Let's just be real clear. There are never results on election night that are official. Networks, news agencies, folks.
They'll make projections.
They'll make projections, and that's great. Make your projections. That's what you get to do. We won't have official results until we have official results. Across the entire country, that's just the way it works. But we pay attention as citizens, as residents, as people interested to those projections. We turn around and walk away. In Arizona, nobody ever cared until we got close politically. And that's where the anxiety comes in, because folks just want to know right now. We're probably going to be, I would guesstimate, about 10 to 13 days out from Election Day till we have those final official results, hopefully much sooner. And if we get them, we'll get them, we'll certify them, and we'll move on. It's the shenanigans beyond that that are a little bit of a concern. And
but people just need to trust that people like you are on the case and don't listen to people who are suggesting that because it's a few days.
As we have been for years and years and years,
Good to see you again. As always, thanks always for making time to talk to us.
Happy to be here.
Adrian Fontes is the Democratic Secretary of State of Arizona.